Okay then, let's spend some time talking about the best IDE for Angular, or the best Angular IDE. Now, you may already know Angular is a powerful framework for building web applications, and having the right IDE can really enhance your productivity when using Angular. You can streamline your workflow and provide best debugging and testing tools. Now, before we get started, how about we do a quick rundown of what I think are the 8 best Angular IDEs. So coming in at number 1 has to be Visual Studio Code, or VS Code. Overall, this is my favorite IDE for nearly every programming language. It's lightweight, highly customizable, and packed with many extensions, especially for Angular. Then we have WebStorm, developed by JetBrains, who are well known for their IDEs such as PyCharm, IntelliJ, etc. Atom, an open source text editor by GitHub, has been sunsetted, but still an excellent text editor. Same with Sublime Text, fantastic editor choice. You've got Angular IDE, which is a dedicated IDE built on top of Eclipse. You also got Eclipse with Angular plugins, IntelliJ IDEA, and lastly, brackets. Now let's talk quickly about my favorite Angular IDE. And as I alluded to, this is VS Code. But why is this my favorite IDE for Angular development? Well, there's several reasons. Firstly, it's the extensive extension marketplace with extensions like Angular snippets, Angular language service, and prettier for code formatting. It makes development with Angular so much easier within VS Code. You also get an integrated terminal that allows you to run Angular CLI commands directly within the IDE, and that really streamlines my workflow. You can also have the live server extension, excellent built-in debugging tools with extensions like Debugger for Chrome, which makes it even easier to debug Angular applications, and of course, Git integration. Any serious developer will know that version control is essential, and having built-in Git support makes VS Code even better. I also love the fact that it's such a lightweight package. As IDEs go, VS Code is one of the lightest when it comes to running on your system, so you won't ever be burdening your system resources or feeling like your system gets bogged down while using VS Code. This is a huge plus for me. Now, I've talked about my favorite. How about I touch on what might be the least effective choice? Well, for me, it might be Eclipse, because without the proper plugins, it can be a really poor choice for Angular development. You'd be much better off going with the Angular IDE flavor of Eclipse made by CodeMix, because that is specifically designed for Angular. So if you're really used to using Eclipse because you're a Java developer, you've had a long time using Eclipse, you may have a differing opinion, and that's fine because there is no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to picking the best IDE for Angular. But for me, this is probably the least optimal choice. Now, before we wrap up, how about we touch on AI? And why am I talking about AI? Well, as you probably noticed, AI is absolutely everywhere. And when it comes to developing with Angular, all developers at these points in time are getting used to using AI coding assistants or AI pair programmers. These are extra tools that you can use that can really enhance your coding experience because they can generate so much more than just autocomplete. They can generate entire code based on comments. And I really believe that going forward into the future, all professional developers are going to get very used to having to use AI code assistants on a daily basis to enable them to be even more productive, because you can use these tools to take care of some of the really basic stuff, the boilerplate and the boring code, while you work on the more complex original coding aspects of a project. So the reason I'm touching on this is that if you want to keep an eye on the future, when choosing the best Angular IDE, you should really opt for one that's already got built-in support for tools like GitHub Copilot, Amazon Code Whisperer, Tab9, etc. VS Code, for instance, has this, as does things like IntelliJ IDEA. So I would just shop around when looking for the best Angular IDE and keep an eye on whether or not it actually supports future-proof tools like AI coding assistants. Because if you invest your time today in a tool that you really come to love when developing with Angular, but it doesn't support these, you may find yourself down the line having to jump ship and jump onto a new IDE. So I want to try and get ahead of that trend now and think about picking the best IDE based upon something that also has AI support. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I would point out there is no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to picking the best Angular IDE. You may find that if you work for a company or you're working in a particular team, that they have a preference for the type of environment they want to code in, and you have to fall in line with that as well. But it's nice to know that you have many options, and I would highly encourage you to experiment with them and see which one really complements and suits your development style. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.